This is Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search for my site. Recording this, I got a very specific audience. Two people talked to today for the first time, a man and a woman who are business partners, and they are in New Jersey near the George Washington Bridge. So I chose this location because I'm New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. So this is Midtown Manhattan skyline. George Washington Bridge is there. If I stepped out this way a little bit, I could see the bridge. And if I looked to the left, I'd see the bridge, George Washington Bridge. I looked to the right, I would see, I know how to find the fans that bring air into the Lincoln Tunnel. So given that my target audience is New Jersey near the George Washington Bridge, I felt this location was perfect. Though it is my second choice, I was too loud at the library and they evicted me. This is Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird. She died in the recent 7 days. I don't think she's buried yet. I mentioned the Harper Lee because this is recorded training. Recorded training is boring, dead boring. So how do you make it better? Well, make it precise to a very specific audience. So it's kind of more personal, even though it's some stupid YouTube video. In other words, it's not just for anyone. It's, in this occasion, for two specific people. The second thing is to keep it fresh. So that date stamps it by mentioning Harper Lee's death. Pitching debt settlement has a conversational process where the professional marketer, financial professional who's gathering information and preparing a contract is going to have a conversation with the person who is considering the program. That conversation is going to net a few realities. One is that debt settlement is not magic. It leverages a very specific financial reality, and that debt is highest value, hardest to pay off if a customer of a bank, a credit card holder would ask for a payoff amount. That payoff amount is going to be the absolute highest when the account status is paid as agreed. So if someone wants to pay the debt off and pay something less than that lump sum payment, he or she, sometimes sometimes it's joined, a husband and wife, will change the status of that account. Change it from pay to agreed. Pay as agreed. That's the easiest way is to let a payment slide. Now it's not paid as agreed. It's delinquent 30, 60, 90 days as it goes into delinquency. The value of that debt goes down. It gets easier to pay off. Again, that's going to be a reality of the conversation between the marketing of a financial professional and the person considering the program. This is not magic. It just leverages a very specific financial reality, and that debt is highest price when it is paid as agreed. The consumer, the debt holder, not the debt holder, but the dettee has the power to change the status of that account. He or she wants it pegged at the highest value possible. Pay as agreed, pay as agreed, pay as agreed, month after month. That formula usually accumulates more debt, not less debt. These people have a financial hardship. Financial hardship is the second thing that happens in a conversational manner. People must have financial hardship. It is established. It's not going to be part of this training how to determine whether the person has it. It's assumed that these people do have financial hardship. That's why this whole conversation is happening. So why do I mention these two? Paid as agreed, financial hardship. Because they're in the disclaimers. This training is about how to pitch the disclaimers. Well, I'm not going to tell you how to pitch that part of the disclaimer, part of the disclosures, part of the warnings. They're called disclosures on Adam's contract, but they are appropriately described by any of those three words: disclaimers, disclosures, warnings, client warnings. The client must know them, must be aware of what they are. So financial hardship, the idea that these people are not going to be paying their creditors during the program, that's also in the disclosures. That doesn't need to be repeated because it's part of the conversation. So here's what does need to be covered. The, the disclosures go A through L, and if someone were to read them to a client, the chance of him or her signing that document, him or her or they signing that document is going to be very close to zero. They were written by an attorney. In addition to being written by an attorney, they were written in a way as added regulations and experience came over the years, so they are not fluid as they write. So by a professional, a financial professional, marketing professional getting his or her own sense of what they say, being able to describe them, the disclosures, the warnings, in a organized way, so it is fluid, they're going to sound a lot better. I am not telling people to skip things. I'm not telling people to sugarcoat these and make them sound like they're not bad. They are there for a reason. They are legitimate warnings. The client must need to be warned. However, these warnings don't have to be so clumsy as though they've been written by multiple lawyers over a half-decade period, which is exactly what they'll sound like if they're read as they are in the document. So again, organize them. So I categorize them in this way. First of all, IRS can make paying one's debt for a less than full amount. That can create a tax obligation. Financial Rescuers has a CPA on staff. That professional services of tax consultation is available to the clients. So to explore whether that client is going to have to create a tax obligation by paying a full amount of debt for a less than full amount, if that is going to create a tax obligation, that is something the person can consult with a CPA item staff. The net is very few people are obligated to pay any tax on the amount of debt they don't pay. So why is it mentioned? Because it is a possibility. Though remote, it must be in the warnings. So again, the marketing professional, the financial professional, me, we are not tax professionals, should not be answering questions about taxes. They should be referred to the tax professional upon enrollment. One thing the non-tax professional can say is, number one, it's unlikely that anyone's going to have to pay a tax based on the money they save. And the bottom line is paying a small amount of tax on the amount of money that's saved. The amount of money that's saved is far bigger than the tax. The tax is paid in future years when the debt obligation becomes due. And so the bottom line is this tax is a warning for good reason because it is not zero. However, it is not in a kind of negative event that should ever prevent someone from signing this document. If they are to consult with the tax, if they are to take the more careful, more thorough, more research approach, they are going to conclude that either number one, they're not going to pay a tax, or number two, if they do, it is tiny compared to the financial benefit they will yield in the program. IRS may obligate someone to pay a tax on the money they save. It's highly unlikely. If it is, it's small compared to the benefit. So that must be mentioned. It must also be stated that this is not credit counseling and it is not a loan. These are the not phrases. Some people get into the program and there's a long history of people thinking they're in program A and they're in program B. Debt settlement has precise expectations that come along with people who know what debt settlement are. People that know what debt settlement is think they're in credit counseling and not debt settlement, then they're making a mistake. They need to understand the difference, and if they think they're in credit counseling, an alarm needs to go off and that has to be reconciled. And the same thing, if they think they're getting a loan, an alarm needs to go off and that has to be reconciled. It's highly unlikely that a good generation of leads and a productive conversation with a marketing financial professional is going to find at this point of signing that anyone thinks they're getting a loan or anyone thinks they're in credit counseling. It's highly unlikely that that's going to be a tripping point. If it is, it must be reconciled. Again, it's not a loan and it's not credit counseling. The risk excluding lawsuits, collector calls, threatening letters, credit score. The consumer must be warned that their credit score will crash. It's a possibility that it won't crash by a lot, If they're already delinquent, it's already gone down. It's going to go down further as their delinquency increases. But as their debt gets paid off, the credit score is going to go back up. So yes, the credit score will crash. However, it is temporary. Collecting calls, threatening letters, again, during the conversation with the financial professional or the marketing professional, he or she needs to assess whether or not this person is already delinquent or has ever been delinquent on debt. Has this person ever experienced collection calls and threatening letters? If he or she has not, this could be a panic for the people. Again, it is a temporary problem. It is a nuisance as compared to the great benefit of getting debt paid, getting it behind one when that debt is settled. And these clients have letters that show the debt has been paid and the balance is zero. A less than full amount has been accepted as a full payment. This is a point of celebration, and the idea that somewhere along the way they got some threatening letters and collection calls and their credit score was temporarily low. These negative effects are tiny compared to the benefit. Though some mention of collection calls, threatening letters, and credit score must be mentioned. It is good to gather them together and mention them at once with a punch. Collection calls, threatening letters, credit score. These will happen, and the clients need to be warned. A successful lawsuit by a creditor effectively secures unsecured debt, which empowers the creditor to garnish wages, take bank deposits, or lien real estate. In effect, this nice favorable decline in the value of the debt, again, it happened when the debt became a status other than paid as agreed. That value of the debt started declining. All of a sudden, there's a lawsuit. If that lawsuit's successful and the timing of a settlement offer is not made, that judgment will allow that unsecured debt to become secured debt. So this is the single most important thing that the professionals who are negotiating the debt will prevent. It's not a guarantee that it will be prevented. However, it is what they live for. This lawsuit, with the proper payments being made into the escrow account with Global Client Solutions, that money is going to be accumulating. So in the event there is a lawsuit, the client is going to notify the professionals at Financial Rescuers, and what's going to happen is that will be settled before a lawsuit becomes a success, before that unsecured debt becomes secured. So yes, it is a risk. However, it is the single thing that the professionals are working to prevent. They don't prevent these lawsuits by chance. They don't prevent them by luck. They prevent lawsuits, and they avoid the unsecured debt becoming secured through a lawsuit. They do this not by chance, not by luck. They do it by sound business practices. The entire program is set up. It is modeled to save enough money so that the money is available in the event there is a lawsuit. Some of these things can't be predicted precisely, though they are predicted with a safe margin so that these lawsuits are settled and they are prevented. The unsecured debt does not become secured debt. This is part of the program. And it is the single most important thing the professionals at Financial Rescuers will work to prevent. So again, these are the warnings. The most difficult thing to get by. Why are the prospective clients going to sign this document? Well, because they want to get out of debt. How is this going to happen? Because they change the status of their accounts from paid as agreed to something else. As soon as it's no longer paid as agreed, that value of the debt is going to decline, making it easier to pay off. While the debt is declining, the client is saving money. The amount of savings gets to a point in the appropriate time so that settlement offers can be made to the people who are owed money. This gets the debt paid. A full amount of debt is going to be paid with a less than full payment. And these settlements are exactly what gets people out of debt. So I'm going to review these disclosures again, these warnings. Again, there are a lot of them in there. It's A through L. If they were to be read as written, it would cause a problem. However, if you realize that the financial hardship, paid as agreed, the idea that this is not magic, that this whole business model is set up on the idea that people are going to change the status of their accounts so that it's no longer paid as agreed. By doing that, that sets up the opportunity for a settlement, for a full payment, a less than full payment to be recognized as a full payment of the debt. That's going to happen as part of the conversation. So when they come up, financial hardship being a requirement, the idea that the status is no longer paid as agreed, those things don't need to be revisited, okay? What does need to be revisited is that staff has an IRS, has a tax professional, a CPA, and his name is Ira. He is available to consult on the tax implications of this program. That needs to be said in some concise manner. Second, it's not credit counseling and it's not a loan. Third, excluding the risk of lawsuits, the risks include collector calls, threatening letters, and credit score. These are temporary and they will blow over like a bad storm. And then the threat of lawsuit. This is not to be taken lightly. However, the people need to know if they're going to leverage the advantage of changing their accounts from paid as agreed to leverage the idea that the value of the debt is declining. They're going to leverage the time that they're given to accumulate enough money to pay that debt. This is declining debt, increasing savings. This is going to hit the sweet spot and that debt's going to be settled. It is that in the business model that's going to prevent a lawsuit. So yes, lawsuits are a risk. It is the single most important thing that the professionals at Financial Rescuers are going to prevent. And it is done with not chance, not guesswork, but by sound business practices that have been proven day after day, month after month for a half decade. So again, I will review them one more time. During the conversation with the prospective client, it is going to be self-evident that you don't need to revisit financial hardship. You do not need to revisit the idea that they're not going to be paying their creditors because the accounts are no longer paid as agreed. So what does need to be mentioned is the tax implications. There's a CPA on staff that's available to consult on such matters. Any research into the subject is going to realize one of two things. The tax is not going to be obligated, and if it is obligated, it is tiny as compared to the benefit of the program. It is not credit counseling, and it is not a loan. There will be collector calls, threatening letters, and credit score will crash. And finally, the possibility of a lawsuit. It is a real possibility. Any debt that is owed but not current, it is not being paid as agreed, there is a threat of a lawsuit. However, the value of the debt is declining, the client's savings are increasing, and that's going to hit a sweet spot where that debt can be paid, and that sweet spot is going to precede a lawsuit. That summarizes the disclosures. If a client has been properly warned of the warnings in these disclosures, then he or she is going to understand that they are risks that will be prevented from becoming reality through sound business practices. And the benefit in taking those risks is getting one's debt paid, getting credit for paying the full amount, getting balances, basically receipts, letters from the company that the client owes money to that say it will be paid for this amount, and that amount is paid directly out of the Global Client Solutions savings account, which is an escrow account. It's a federally insured bank. So that those payments are made, the clients have a receipt to show that the creditor has accepted a less than full amount as full payment. One by one, those debts get settled, credit score goes back up, bankruptcy is prevented. This is a success. In short, that's it. The program should sell itself. If people want to get out of debt, This is the best way to do it other than bankruptcy. If they want to avoid bankruptcy, which takes a longer recovery time, debt settlement is a great way to do it. And if they understand the risks they're taking in advance, they're going to sign this document without hesitation. You got this IRS thing, you got a few things that it's not, you got some collector calls, you got some threatening letters, you got the credit score. Those are all temporary. They're a nuisance. They're not a big problem. And then what is a big problem, if they happen, is a legal judgment against the creditor. However, it is the sound business practices executed by competent professionals that are going to prevent those lawsuits from being judged. They're going to prevent that unsecured debt from being secured. And that is the way the program works. Again, the program should sell itself. Marketing professionals, financial professionals, you're getting on the phone with people who need this program. It's going to sell itself. The warnings need to be given to them in a fluid, non-threatening way. They shouldn't be threatened by these. The idea that they've gotten themselves into this much debt that they need this program is something they should have been feeling the threat of as they were accumulating it. But once it's been accumulated and they're talking to a competent professional that's going to get them out of this debt, that is a moment where they should feel relieved that this program, it's not too late. This program is going to fit them. This program will prevent bankruptcy, have this financial dark cloud pass over in a smooth and predictable manner. This has been Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit near the Lincoln Tunnel, that way. The George Washington Bridge, that way. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, good evening, or restful night's sleep. Ciao. Ciao.